What are some ugly facts about famous and well-liked people of history that aren't well known by the public? From Rotten.com. When Steve Jobs worked at Atari, the company was working on creating the arcade game Breakout, which required 80 integrated circuits, ICs. The less ICs there were, the cheaper the games would be to produce. So Nolan Bushnell, Atari's president, offered $100 for every IC that could be knocked out of the design. Jobs brought was the challenge. And over 4 days and nights at Atari they put together a design that only required 30 ICs. Bushnell gave Jobs his $5,000 bonus, which Jobs split with Wozniak by telling him it was a $700 bonus, giving him half, or $350. Woz was delighted, but years later found out the truth and cried. Newt Gingrich twice divorced a wife as she lay ill in hospital with cancer. Newt Gingrich has run for office as a family man. DR. Dre beat the shit out of a reporter at a party just for interviewing Ice Cube after he left his group. I can only hope she didn't settle for the 90s chump change he had then, in comparison to the Beats by Dre money he has now. Edited, it was Ice Cube, not Ice-T. I so tired. This gives a special meaning to Beats by Dre. By the way, Ice Cube will be pissed when he hears Ice-T was in Dre's group. People seem to forget Mark Zuckerberg screwed everyone involved with Facebook out of billions of dollars. Edit, it seems I did miss the well-liked part. I'm not sure if anyone has forgotten that. They made a whole movie about it. Mr. Mosby from The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody The Sweet Life on Deck was charged with manslaughter in the 90s. Eddie Murphy got Scary Spice pregnant and refused to believe it was his. Then he took a blood test which proved he was the father after all, and he still wants nothing to do with the kid. In total he has 8 kids with 4 different women. Actually, he could start his own daddy daycare. A friend of a friend grew up in the village near where Paul McCartney lives. And basically the village makes a ton of cash based on his locality. She says growing up that it was very common to see Linda McCartney show up with black eyes. And that it was something that you never, ever discussed with anyone. Especially someone not from the village. It sounds like something from the League of Gentlemen. Rob Schneider pays migrant workers to choke him in the shower. Hillary Clinton, while First Lady of Arkansas, once called a Bill Clinton detractor a dirty ducking Jew. This isn't ugly on her part, but the people who perpetrated it. Audrey Hepburn was famous for that 20-inch waist of hers, but she actually credits it to when she was a teenager living in Nazi-occupied Netherlands and was starving to the point she was eating tulip bulbs and trying to make bread out of grass. Her older brother was put into a labor camp while her cousin and uncle were executed. Elvis Presley was technically a pedophile. Imagine a 25-year-old rock star ducking a 14-year-old today. People would lose their shit. Charlie Chaplin also ducked a bunch of kids, it just wasn't illegal at the time. A different time and a different cultural norm. No one today would accept grown adults being with underage children. But at that time with that culture and that mindset it's not an issue. Think of all the underage girls band members of the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin slept with. You can't say they didn't sleep with girls underage. We can't use morality of today to demonize actions of the past. It's best to learn from those mistakes and try to understand their mindset to better ourselves. Barack Obama is known to eat all of the chocolate in a carton of Neapolitan ice cream, leaving only vanilla and strawberry for everyone else. That's why he's my hero. Mathurda King love vanilla and strawberry ice cream. Duck chocolate. Teddy Kennedy left a woman to drown after crashing his car and ditching in a river. Roman Polanski, director of some amazing films such as Chinatown, Rosemary's Baby, and The Pianist. He drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl, and then fled the country to avoid jail time. 138 people in the film industry signed an open letter in his defense when he was arrested in Switzerland. Xerxes was a much fairer and more progressive ruler than Leonidas. 300 makes it seem like the Spartans were fighting for freedom. but they heavily relied on slaves. Sparta is one of those things you think is cool when you're in middle school until you grow up and realize that it was a dystopian hellhole. Gandhi denied his wife medical treatment because it was against their beliefs. She died. Then weeks later he got the same condition and received the life-saving treatment so he wouldn't die. Miley Cyrus's dad paid the higher-ups in charge of Hannah Montana to put his daughter in the show. She auditioned, but they told her no. They offered her a guest appearance. She threw a fit. Daddy paid them to put her in the show as a lead for the first season. For some reason the show took off, and so she got to keep doing it. Source: went to elementary middle school with her and her brother, and was friends with her brother. He was also a spoiled brat who threw similar fits. Al Sharpton falsely accused a white New York prosecutor of rape and abduction of a black teenager to gain his fame, destroying the career of the prosecutor and the teenage girl. He was successfully sued for defamation but let others pay the $345,000 in damages. The former king of Spain held his little brother in a suspicious gum accident. Also, one of his mistresses was found dead and the autopsy showed she was pregnant. There are a lot of shady facts surrounding him, but the Spanish media haven't said anything about them until recently. Wing Chun Master Ip Man is portrayed in movies as almost like a saint. In reality he was an adulterer, opium addict and out of control gambler. His second son was with his mistress, and his senior students would hide the money he received from students because he would collect it and immediately go and lose it gambling. Great at kung fu though. Alexander Graham Bell didn't invent the telephone. He stole the patent when he was working in the patent office and the real inventor died before the court case. Although Barney is well known for entertaining children, he is actually considered one of the greatest apex predators to have ever lived and spent majority of his time killing others from his own species. Jared Leto pulled up to my friends in a limo once as they were leaving a bar and asked them to get in. They did. And he pretty quickly started groping my friend. She asked him to stop, and he got super douchy and said, "I guess you don't know who I am," and told the driver to pull over. He then kicked all of them out of the limo in a bad part of town. I know this isn't the greatest story or the most historical figure, but Dickhead is a huge actor and I'd rather read this than G.H. Andy and Mother Teresa were big digs. 20 ducking times in one thread. Lincoln wanted to send slaves back to Africa, and never thought whites and blacks could live together as equals. He didn't want them having equal rights either. At least he wanted to send them back, and not use them. I'm a fan of using them, then carefully sealing them back in the package and then returning them. James Brown was a major drug addict and prone to violence. He beat his third wife with a lead pipe and shot at her. Assaulted a police officer after a high-speed car chase. Charged a repairman that came to his house with a steak knife. And allegedly raped one of his female employees. Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State during the presidency of Nixon, conducted an illegal war in Cambodia during the Vietnam War by diverting B-52 bombers to that region. The pilots didn't even know what they were bombing and it would not be reflected on their flight logs. This illegal war arguably laid the foundation for the instability and mass murders that followed. He also supported the military coup of 1973 in Chile, which was spearheaded by the dictator Pinochet. The only reason that George Washington was able to cross the Delaware River is because he lied to the troops. Their year of service was up, so Washington said that Congress was willing to give a raise to anybody who re-enlisted that day. Nobody got the raise. Reddit loathes Snoop Dogg because he is the king of weed up. But the dude has continued to be an actual pimp even after becoming a millionaire. Not because he needs the money, but because he enjoys the power over the women and the ability to command them through fear. He talked about this very explicitly in a Rolling Stone article just a few years ago, and I don't understand how anyone could think of him as anything but repulsive. Cole Malone, while a 20-year-old college basketball star fathered a child with a 13-year-old, he has denied the child throughout his life, even though there is a large amount of evidence pointing to him actually being a sleazebag. Despite his philanthropy, The money had to come from somewhere. Bill Gates was likened to the devil or the Borg for his highly unethical legal practices in the 90s and zeros. During World War II, Churchill refused to send shipments of grain to India, which was suffering a famine based partially on heavy British exports, and instead stockpiled them in areas that had enough. 3 million people died. According to Churchill, it was their own fault for breeding like rabbits. Jerry Springer was once mayor of Cincinnati, Ohio. He resigned after he was caught with a prostitute, but he managed to get re-elected. Some say it was because he was honest about his mistake and didn't try to act like it didn't happen like most politicians do. Edit. Yes, I know about the check. Enough. Nikola Tesla was in favor of eugenics as well as several other less than favorable opinions. PBS published an awesome video on the disparity between the real and idealized Tesla. Sources in the description. Edit. I don't think this many people have spoken positively about eugenics since the 1940s. Judith Barcy, the voice actress for Ducky from The Land Before Time, was held with her mother by her father in a double murder suicide. Charles Dickens' life took a major turn when, in a move that would have been perfectly characteristic of the worst of the most callous, manipulative villains of his own stories, he left his wife and 10 children after falling in love with an 18-year-old actress he'd become smitten with. He remained with the girl until his death. Granted, reports were that it had been a bad marriage, but he also had a record for being smitten with his own sister-in-law, Ike, during his marriage, until she passed away, to the extent that her death left him devastated at age 25. Just too bad he never had that kind of attachment to his own wife, I suppose. Michael Jordan is the absolute nastiest person. So mean and arrogant. I worked for a local livery service that catered to only superstars and professional athletes. We had a few mean clients, but they were super rich and entitled. However, Jordan took mean and nasty to another level. His wife, Pietro, and him used to schedule rides every other day. They called, yelled, belittled and degraded the operators who took their reservations. One woman was reduced to tears because he got mad at her and he kept calling back yelling at us. I have even seen Jordan completely ignore children and tell them to get lost. His kids are also mean. Vile people. The apple did not fall from the tree there. It is sad because he is a basketball legend. However, really is a evil man. I have so many Jordan stories, but he isn't worth my keystrokes. On a more positive and completely random note, another famous person we catered to was Ric Flair. Now, growing up Rick was the man. But around town he is still considered a celebrity. But at A-list, he is a raging stone cold alcoholic. However, he may be a drunk who couldn't pay his tab, but he was the absolute nicest man ever to call our service. Many times our owner would let him slide just because he was so well liked. Before he took a nosedive into alcohol he was a good customer, but as the years rolled on he completely changed. LeBron James eats his steak well done. Son of a Rick. Acting like a goddamn American hero and secretly ruining fine cuts of beef. Word on the street is Steph Curry eats his steak super rare. Walk through a hot kitchen rare. Go Warriors. Bono's massive worldwide charity only donates about 1% towards actually charity. I mean, we had a front page post last week about 4 much smaller charities in the US being run by the same family and only donating about 15% to charity, and we had our pitchforks out. I saw a documentary on John F. Kennedy where someone said that on parties, vacations and social functions, he'd always invite one unpopular person to make fun of them behind their backs. Knowing this made me think he was probably kind of a jerk. When Mark Wahlberg was 15, a civil action was filed when he threw rocks and shouted racial slurs at black kids. When he was 16, he approached a Vietnamese man on the street and knocked him unconscious with a stick and yelled, "Vietnam ducking sheet." Later that day, he attacked another Vietnamese man, punching him in the face. For these crimes, He was charged with attempted murder, but only served 45 days. He has recently tried to get a pardon for his crimes, which has stirred up a lot of controversy. I see all the time Reddit fawns over Mr. Rogers as if he was perfect. But the thing that nobody ever brings up is, just kidding. The guy was pretty much Jesus. Cristiano Ronaldo, world's biggest soccer star, impregnated a waitress during a trip to the US and paid her off to hide her identity and never see her child again. It's well reported, and his family even said, "We don't want this child to live in poverty." How much did he pay her? I feel like it wouldn't be that bad depending on the amount. Or did he take the child and pay her to not see it? If that's the case, yeah, it's kind of bad. It looks like he paid her £10 million to not ever see the child or reveal her identity. Thomas Edison was a cutthroat businessman with deep ties to the mob. Sure, he invented a few things, but he stole most of his credit from people like Tesla. Also, the film industry moved across the country just to get the duck away from him. They were tired of having the mob come and trash their equipment. Edison thought he owned the motion picture camera and everything shot with it. Let's not forget about Cheryl Cole. Think she has a different surname now. There's Factor USA and UK judge pop starlet role mode. She shouted racial slurs and assaulted a black female toilet attendant for not wanting to pay for sweets. For Americans, Lyndon B. Johnson used to show his pen 15 to other members of Congress to try and cow them. He named it Jumbo Lol. Gandhi ran a cult-like compound in which men were not allowed to be alone with their wives. He would also frequently have young girls, including his own granddaughter, spend a night in his bed in order to test his willpower or some shit like that. John Frusciante was with River Phoenix the entire night that he died. They were doing copious amounts of drugs. John could handle it. River could not. The 911 phone call made by River's brother, Jay Oquim, was released to the public, and the 911 operator was a complete douche-up. Funny fact about Steve Jobs: he hated people being unproductive. At Apple, if you ran into him, he'd always ask you what you'd done for Apple that day. If you couldn't give him a straight answer, you were immediately fired on the spot. A funny story erupts from this when Jobs was riding in an elevator and asked the guy next to him what he'd done for Apple that day. When the man replied with nothing, Jobs ordered him to clean his desk out. When the man tried to get a word in, Jobs began to get mad and cause a scene until the man was able to explain that he didn't even work for Apple and was just delivering a package. Steven Spielberg, in the making of The List of Schindler, came to Schindler's wife, which was really poor, to get information, and after the movie he paid her nothing and funded the Zeno-Karl Schindler Foundation, earning millions for Jews affected by the Third Reich, while Emily Schindler was dying alone and poor, although she did just as much as his wife to rescue people from the German genocide. When historical preservationists were doing work on one of Benjamin Franklin's old houses in the late 90s, they found a hidden room off the basement that contained more than 1,200 bones from at least 15 different people. Link. The speculation is that it was an underground anatomy school run by one of his friends. But since most of the corpses were likely sourced from grave robbers, even if that's true, and he didn't make any effort to give them a decent burial before he left, it's still not super great. Vince McMahon put a whole bunch of different people out of business. He stole their talent and even stole the talent he was never going to use. He took their TV time and forced people out of arenas and off PPV. He never paid his share of the deal for the rights to Stampede Wrestling either. He ruined a ton of careers. Basically pushed steroid uses. Abused coke. Had sexual harassment issues. Fired people for getting pregnant. Fired people for getting with the female talent, and fired people on their wedding days.